A few weeks ago, while walking to dinner at a friend's house, I noticed that I was getting tired. I was walking uphill, so my heart was beating faster and I was breathing faster. And although I walk a lot every day, I realized that I was not really in shape to be walking up hills. Now, I coached swimming for 30 years, so I know the ins and outs of the aerobic system pretty well. And I realized that I was not challenging my cardiovascular system to be walking up hills or running or doing anything above the level of intensity that my daily walks required. The cardiovascular system responds to the demands that we place on it. And while I was walking up that hill, I realized that my cardiovascular system was not responding well to those demands because I never require it to. I'm always walking on level ground. So I thought I would make this video to describe how we can train the aerobic system to be more efficient and to take on higher demands than our daily activities may require. One of the best ways to improve our physical health or to increase our abilities physically is to improve our cardiovascular efficiency. And when we do that, there are two components that you want to keep in mind. One is intensity, and the other is duration. A good example of intensity is the difference between walking and running. Running obviously being the more intense of the two. To train your aerobic system, we have to work on both the intensity and the duration of the activities that we do. And this is how you do it. The first step is to figure out your maximum heart rate, because you're going to need this number in the other equation. And to do this, I simply take my heart, my age, and subtract it from 220. Now, obviously, your age may differ. But when I subtract my age from 220, I get 153 beats per minute. That's my theoretical maximum heart rate. Step 2 is to figure out what your actual aerobic training range is. And to do that, you take your maximum heart rate, multiply by 64% to get the lower limit, and then you take your maximum heart rate again, multiply by 76% to get the upper limit. As you can see here, my range occurs between 98 and 116 beats per minute. What that means is when I'm doing aerobic exercise, the exercise will require my heart rate to be somewhere within that range, 98 at the lower limit and 116 at the upper limit. Recall that the other component involved in training aerobically is duration, and that's 20 minutes plus. So when we exercise aerobically, trying to get a training effect, we're going to be operating within our aerobic training range, in my case between 98 and 116 beats per minute, for 20 minutes or more. When you start exercising during your warm-up, your heart is starting from a resting rate, and it's going to take a few minutes to get to the training zone. So that's where the clock actually starts on the 20 minutes of your exercise. So it's not a 20-minute workout. It's 20 minutes within the aerobic training zone or more. The key thing there is or more. The aerobic training zone is not very intense, so you can operate in it for a long time. I mean, hours at a time if you want to. But the minimum amount of time is recommended to be at least 20 minutes. If you train aerobically often enough, then you will notice that your everyday activities become easier. Your heart rate will stay low regardless of what you're doing. Household activities will be easier, walking the dog will be easier, cutting the grass will be easier. When I walk up the hill, I will find it easier. All kinds of things will seem easier because your heart and cardiovascular system are all operating more efficiently. The heart is ejecting more blood, more oxygen is being delivered to the muscles, and if you really want to get into the weeds, the mitochondria are actually operating at a much higher level than they were before you started training aerobically. So the benefits to increasing your aerobic efficiency are pretty good. It's a good reason for you to get into an aerobic training program. This does not mean that walking by itself is not good for you. Walking is a low level of exercise. It rarely brings people into the aerobic training range. So there is no aerobic training effect when you're just walking. But walking has its own effects. It's good for the spine, it helps control blood sugars, and it's a rhythmic activity, so it's also very relaxing. Walking is an excellent activity. This video is not meant to try to convince you that walking by itself is not good. It's an excellent activity. If you're not interested in training aerobically, walking is still good for you. But if you want to be able to walk faster, walk up hills, or do any kind of activity that requires a higher intensity, then aerobic training is the way to go. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Hey folks, remember, if you subscribe to this channel, all of your wildest dreams will come true. I'll show myself out.